Being a senator is like busy intersections and lonely roads. The busy intersections, of course, are the elections and the hot cauldron of a legislative session. But in between those times, during the interim, there's a lot of lonely road, a lot of stretches where you work in obscurity in your office, on a computer, telephone, email. And it was during one of those particularly long, lonely stretches of lonely road for me that I got this call.
My son Chad had an accident in 1989, January. He was in a coma for weeks, and then a long recovery in the hospital after that.
I have a traumatic brain injury where I lost all my speech. I couldn't talk. I couldn't really move.
Chad was 17 at the time of his accident, and his whole life, I think, was music. He had started playing piano when he was 4 years old, and music was his love, his joy.
It was just very frustrating, but my mom kept putting me at the piano and said, you know, just keep trying. All you can do is try.
After Chad's accident, Chad came home in a wheelchair and was in one for a while. We rented an apartment where we still are today. We've been here all those years and never had a late payment, never had a check bounce, never had a complaint, and been perfectly content living here. And then, wham, all of a sudden, appeared this notice on our door, a no-cause eviction, which totally shocked us. We couldn't believe it. We thought maybe it was for someone else.
So I went up to the office and I showed it to them. They said, no, it's for you.
I said, well, why? And they said, we don't have to give you a reason. It's a no-cause eviction notice.
We were shocked. We didn't understand.
Chad had just had a major heart attack and was still in recovery from that. And there's no way we could move. So I went on the internet. I emailed all of our politicians in this local area. Not one of them responded to me, except Mark Hess.
I'm in my basement office at home. The legislative line rings, and I answer it, and it's Linda, and she is distraught. She's absolutely upset and says, I'm getting kicked out of my house. I have a disabled son, and I don't know what I'm going to do, where I'm going to go, and no one will help me, and now I'm down to you. So I call the landlord, but he said, we have properties all over the place, and we never second guess our managers. I just don't see any reason to change any of our policies. And I said, well, I can give you two reasons. First, kicking a lady and her disabled son out onto the streets is just about the lousiest thing you could ever do. And second, this is discrimination, and it's a violation of our U.S. civil rights laws. And there was a pause, and he said, we'll call you back.
I even called a lawyer, and he told me that I don't have a case. He said, I'll represent you in court, but I don't think we'll win.
So the next day, the lady calls me back, and she says, we've decided to let Linda stay, and we're going to renew her lease. And I said, that's terrific news. Thank you, thank you, thank you. She's going to be thrilled. And the lady said, now there will be a rent increase. I said, oh, okay. Will that increase be for everybody, all of the tenants, or just her? And there was a pause, and she said, I'll call you back. And she called back, and she said, Linda will stay and we'll renew the lease, and she'll pay the same amount as she always has.
Without Mark Haas, I shudder to think what would have happened.
We would have been on the street. We would have had to move. but I knew what they were doing was not right. And if I could find one person that would help us, could see that this was wrong, if I could just find one person, which I did, it was Mark Hess.
In these kinds of cases, the government works pretty well. The system works well. Not because I did anything extraordinary. I didn't. I didn't do anything that anybody else who has a job wouldn't do. The system works well. In this case, the government worked well because Linda is protected by some very simple underpinnings that we have in this country that say no one is better than any other person.
I feel like I have faith in the system if you just push.
As a citizen, I think the system worked.
This is what this job is about. Lots of people think politics, you're down at the Capitol having lunch with the governor, giving speeches, shaking hands. This is really what it's about. It's about people who step up and say, I can make a difference by helping others. And I'd like to make that the story for this new young century that we're in, that public service isn't something to be chastised. Public service is really where it's at in terms of, I think, turning a lot of things around in this country. Government isn't broken. Government is not broken. There are people in government who are helping others. That's what we want.
One day I'd like to perform Beethoven's Pathetique. And that piece means a lot to me because when I came home from the hospital, I saw some music, and there was sheet music for Beethoven's Pathetique.
He works really hard at playing the piano now, and it's not easy for him. He has ataxia in his hands, and it affects his playing. And I'm sure that's very frustrating for him, but I enjoy hearing him play.